Good afternoon. Welcome to the FTD University webinar titled 5 Actions to Take to Improve Your Shop's Cybersecurity. Today, you will learn some techniques you can use to improve your ability to prevent and swiftly respond to cybersecurity incidents. Michael Boucher, FTD's Senior Director of Information Risk Management, will be leading this informative webinar. He is responsible for all cybersecurity and technology compliance activities across FTD's entire organization. Prior to FTD, Mike worked in information security leadership roles at PwC and Xerox, where he was responsible for advising clients and delivering information security solutions. Once Mike is finished with his presentation, we will open the webinar up for questions. If you have a question, simply type it in that question box on the upper right side of your screen. Just feel free to submit your questions during the presentation, and we'll hold them until the Q&A portion of the webinar at the end. So without further ado, I'd like to turn the call over to Mike to begin the webinar. Mike.
Hi, thank you for that wonderful introduction. I'm very excited to talk to everyone today about information security and give you some ideas and some tips on how you're able to help improve the security of your shop and make your business more resilient. As was mentioned in my introduction, I've been in information security for about the past 20 years. And the last 5 of those, I've been with FTD, working both in our commercial e-commerce side, working with our florist business, and Interflora. And so I believe I have a good grasp of some of the challenges that we all face as a business, and some of the challenges that we're facing with some of the security issues that are coming up. It's very difficult actually to go through your day-to-day lives without seeing news stories coming up in the media about the latest security vulnerability, the latest phishing attack, the latest malware outbreak. And these cybersecurity incidents are really coming at a very furious pace, so it's very difficult for everyone to keep up with. Also too, these news media stories also cause a lot of fear and concern in with consumers. I know myself as an individual, I worry about my data, my family's data, being at risk and being breached. There's lots of these latest exploits coming out from stories about Facebook, Panera Restaurants, Delta Airlines, and other news media stories that have recently announced security compromises. So you worry about the information that you actually have exposed, and how are you going to deal with it if you become compromised. We want to make sure that we're giving our customers confidence and trust that we're making sure that we're doing everything necessary to help protect their data, to help protect their information, and to give them confidence that we are going to be a trusted partner that they can rely upon and help fulfill their business needs in the best way possible. Why is cybercrime really becoming such a problem? This is a challenging issue because cybercrime is so diverse. And one of the easiest, it's a very easy crime to commit. There's very few entries or barriers to entry in coming into becoming a cyber criminal. When you think about starting your own business, what you need to do it, you need marketing, you need a shop, you need technology, etc. To becoming a cyber criminal, really you just need an internet connection and a computer. It is very easy for them to acquire different tools and capabilities to engage in cybercrime. On the dark web, there is thousands of different sources of information that they can use to compromise systems, send sophisticated phishing campaigns, tutorials that have been provided by other criminals on how to craft attacks and how to attack other networks and be able to compromise people's personal information. There's actually attack networks that criminals can go out and rent in the marketplace, just like you're renting a car. You need it for so many certain of hours, pay a certain amount, and then it's at your disposal to use. So it's very easy to do, and it's doesn't require a lot of skill or financial capabilities to be able to get into cybercrime. It's also very anonymous. Attackers can really hide their activity by using either dark web resources or using compromised infrastructure of other companies. So if there's vulnerabilities that exist out in a company's network, cyber criminals can access those networks and then use that as a platform to launch attacks against other individuals or other companies. So weaknesses in other companies' security systems can actually, help those cyber criminals launch their criminal activities and really remain anonymous. It's also a very low-risk crime. If you take a look and compare it to other forms of crime, it's very low risk. They're doing it anonymously. They do not have the risk of walking into a physical building, being recognized or being recorded on a television. The risk of someone trying to intervene in the act of that crime. So a good Samaritan, trying to stop them from committing that crime. They don't need to worry about the police, responding actively and being there to catch them. So it's for them, it is, very difficult for them to get caught and prosecuted. Many of the attacks that we see also get launched from overseas, outside of the United States. So when these attackers are attacking us from overseas, whether it's in Asia, Europe, South America, wherever, it's very difficult for us to be able to gather the appropriate information, present it to law enforcement, and then for them really to be able to take action to bring that attacker or that perpetrator to justice. So for them to be able to go and launch these attacks, there's really, few risks to them. It's also very profitable. Recent studies estimate that, people that are very successful in cybercrime, the high earners, can earn upwards of $2 million a year. So if you think as a small business owner what it would take for you to earn $2 million a year, that's, quite a challenge. For those cyber criminals that are very good and sophisticated, have developed very good techniques, have very good capabilities in this area, they can earn very high rewards. So, and the risks that may detract them from pursuing cybercrime are pretty few. Mid-level attackers can earn up around about $900,000 a year, and entry level are around $42,000. So if you take a look at earning $42,000 a year, that in a lot of cases is even advanced or a higher amount than some recent college graduates are commanding as salaries when they're coming into the marketplace. So there's a lot of incentive from a financial perspective for people to engage in cybercrime just because of the rewards and profitability that you can achieve. Threats evolve quickly. As we commented, in my introduction, there's so many different types of technologies that are in existence today. There's so many different ways to compromise different technologies, and technology is really advancing into all different areas of business as well as consumer life. If you think about yourself and some of the technologies that you use on a daily basis, you're using technology very frequently. The average car today has over 100 million lines of code that is programmed into it to run GPS systems, entertainment, and really actually help the car perform in a capable way and optimizing that experience for the driver. Just in terms of how the car is communicating with brakes and other components of the manufactured areas of the car, there's so much technology that it can cause the threats and risks to those technologies to change very rapidly. In 2017, there was over 16,000 vulnerabilities were released. So if you think about that, that is a very large number of vulnerabilities that need to be kept up with, on a daily basis. That's about 43 per day. So it's very difficult to track each of those types of vulnerabilities, understand the risk that they pose, and then making sure that we're shutting those down, in an appropriate way, and doing it in a graceful way that we're not causing any other problems in technology. The social and political influence, this has become much more of a concern over about the last year and a half or 2 years, and the media has also started to talk more at length about the social and political influence that hackers are having on society today. So we've started to see that some of the risks that are in information security today aren't necessarily going directly after the financial resources, the credit reports, the debit cards, the credit cards. They're actually going to influence more of human behavior. So we feel that this is also going to continue to increase over time. If you think about the fundamental, the fundamental fabric of, how the election system works today and the trust that is part of that process, making sure that we have a high integrity around that system, is going to be very important. And when you see stories about the election systems becoming potentially compromised or influenced by foreign actors, it causes people that have obvious concern. So we think that we're going to continue to watch and see changes in this area as well. So given these, very overwhelming risks, how can you better prepare, your business to not fall victim to cybercrime, especially as we're moving into the Mother's Day holiday, and there may be potential new risks that you may be facing because of your business, that you may become more of a target for these types of activities. How can you make changes or influence your behavior so that you're more capable and able to understand these threats and address them in a good way that will increase your security, increase the resilience of your shop, because you really rely upon, your computers and your systems to run your business. So we want to make sure that we're giving you capabilities and ideas to be able to help you do that in the best way. The first area, or the first tip that we have is really try to keep your work and personal computers separated. Using a dedicated computer for processing orders and point of sale is very important. Not having those systems exposed to the internet, exposed to your email, exposed to other web surfing, reduces the risk that that computer would be infected, have access to confidential information such as your customers' credit information, your customer files. So having a dedicated computer that really just runs those transaction areas of your business will go a long way towards protecting you and isolating those bad actions such as phishing or malware attacks from coming into those systems. As you also too are transacting or moving files potentially between those computers, understand and make sure that you're again really trying to keep those systems separate, because if you plug a USB drive into your point of sale system computer or one of those computers that you're using for orders, you may inadvertently transfer a virus to that isolated system. So please make sure that you're using good antivirus protections and other security devices to not allow that USB device to infect those computers. Phishing attacks.
Mike, do we want to roll out that poll?
Yes, we did. Sorry. Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, so we do have a poll question. So if you can complete the poll question, we'd like to understand, get a gauge of how many do have isolated systems today and are using dedicated computers for those point of sale and order systems.
All right, if everybody can just take a second. I have a dedicated computer for processing orders and point of sale, yes or no? All right.
All right,
It looks like we're 50-50.
All right, let me talk about phishing a little bit. Phishing is one of the largest attack vectors that we see hackers or other malicious actors using to try to compromise systems.
Mike, you're not in the slideshow anymore.
All right.
Yeah, it tends to do that when we come out of the poll, so you might have to.
How's that?
Perfect.
Excellent. Thank you. So as I was starting to say, phishing is really one of the #1 ways that we see hackers really trying to compromise users' computers. The reason this is because really it's the most easy way. Again, they can send off tens of thousands of emails per hour. And if they have, just a few people that actually respond or click on those links, they become very successful. And that helps them, again, become more profitable and increase, their effectiveness. So really understanding and monitoring your email communications is going to be very important for you to be able to identify these types of bad emails and not fall victim to these types of attacks. So as you're looking at emails, or people within your shop that have email access are looking at these, there's several key things that you can use to help identify these types of phishing emails. Very generic subject lines. So you may see, we have seen these being very targeted. So you may see them being very tailored to your shop, with your shop name, with other words such as, wedding or funeral or order. But, take a look at the subject line as being key indicators. Also, too, a lot of the more frequent ones with mortgage offers and things like that, a lot of those times also contain very infected links or content. URLs, so links that are embedded in the emails asking you to go ahead and click on that link, those are very suspicious and should be taken with a high degree of caution. Those links are usually going to direct you to a website that will attempt to launch code on your machine or compromise that computer that you were using, and thus give that hacker access into your system. So please be cautious of links. You can hover over them. A lot of times that you'll see that they're going to try to direct you to someplace other than where where the email said that they were going to take you. So please be very cautious of those links. Phishing emails a lot of times do have bad grammar or misspelling in them. Again, these are being crafted by people that are overseas. Some of them are not native English-speaking individuals, so they become easy to recognize through some of those types of errors. They are getting better and more sophisticated at crafting these. Again, as the tools evolve as well too, that they are able to use to generate these mass numbers of emails. Some of those spelling errors and grammatical errors have been corrected, but this is still a key thing to look for. But don't just rely upon those indicators. Unnecessary urgency, you need to respond now. We are going to turn off your bank by the end of the day today. We're going to freeze your accounts. We're going to send the police or the IRS after you. These are scare tactics that these individuals are using to try to motivate you to action, to click on that link, to put yourself really at that risk. Don't fall for that. Please, again, if you are caused concern by anything that is contained in those emails, do other mechanisms to check out the validity of the email besides clicking on the link. Place a telephone call to your bank, place a telephone call to that supplier, asking them if they were really sending you an invoice or a package. So use other mechanisms besides clicking on the link if you really feel that there's an urgency that you need to take action on whatever is being sent to you via email. This next slide here too is actually an example of an email that was sent to FTD as well as to some FTD member florists. So I'm showing this. This came out in October of last year, went to several hundred recipients. And if you take a look at this email, it's very impressive. They did a very good job in using our logos. They formatted it in a very business and professional way. And this email was sent to FTD employees as well as I mentioned, florists, really to try to trick them into clicking on the link that was embedded in the email that would download malicious code to that user's computer. So we are targets. We should know that we are going to be receiving these types of emails, and we should expect it. And that is part of the reason why I'm here talking to you today, to make you aware of these types of situations, that we will receive them, and we are being targeted in the industry. And you need to make sure that you're doing everything in your power to not fall victim to these. So we're trying to give you some of this guidance and help. So if you take a look here, again, was a very targeted message and campaign, and was thankfully not very successful. So we were able to get outward to our florist members and others that received this email in a very quick and timely manner, letting them know that this was not a legitimate email and that they should delete it and not take further action. As a point to note, FTD will never send you an email asking you to update your Mercury software through a link that we are going to provide to you. That is not how we handle support. So if you receive any further types of this type of email in the future, please report it to support, but know that also to FTD won't ask you for that.
All right, our
and
next
we have a poll question?
Yep.
I remember this time.
All right, I have received suspicious emails in my business email accounts that contain suspicious links or attachments. Yes or no? Take a quick second to... All right, let's see the results. 73% said yes, they have.
And I would expect that everybody, likely has. It is very common. And if you haven't, if you're some of those lucky few that have, very good spam filters and, those types of tools, please note that you may be vulnerable at some point in the future as your business may move more online or you get more connected via email. The next thing that is going to help us, the next tip that we would like to give is really from a patching perspective. So if you do fall victim to clicking on that link, that was sent in that email, it's human nature. A lot of times, especially when people do get those types of phishing emails, they're very busy. They're trying to do 10 things at once. They're trying to, handle multiple tasks. People do click on them. It's very human nature oriented to do so. People are curious. So people do that. I see that every day. So if you do click on the link, don't feel bad. Don't feel that you shouldn't report it. The bad effect of clicking on the link is actually not saying you clicked on it or not reporting it. But the most important thing that you can do to minimize the type of impact of clicking on a phishing link is really patching your system. So making sure that your security programs and operating systems are up to date will help you not become vulnerable to those system flaws or those vulnerabilities that the hacker may try to use to gain control of your system. So if you're keeping your system up to date and patched, that is really going a long way, even if you click on that phishing link, to making sure that your system is going to continue to stay secure. The best way to do this is really enabling those automatic updates from your in your computer, to making sure that when those patches become available, they become available on a regular scheduled basis. Microsoft releases its patches on the second Tuesday of every month. So if you enable automatic updates, your computer will actually go out to Microsoft to look for those new patches and install them by themselves if you've enabled that feature in your computer. So that is a very good way to making sure that you're keeping up to date with your software. It's also very important for you to work with the Mercury support team, because as we change our software, we update Mercury, because we're constantly patching our software for guarding against new vulnerabilities. We want to make sure that you're keeping your systems up to date as well. So if we're updating systems on our end, we'll ask you to make sure and schedule that upgrade with you and your shop, so that way we're able to make our systems secure, make sure that we're compliant with the regulations that we need to comply with, that ultimately help give our customers confidence, that we're secured and managing and storing their information in a secured and safe way. So patching is a very important concern or important thing for you to do to increase that security of your shop. And I think we have a poll question on this one as well.
We do. Let's roll out the next poll question. My shop computers are running the latest Microsoft patches. Yes, no, or I'm not sure. All right, let's see where we're at. Nice, 67% yes, 33% not sure.
And for those 33% that aren't sure, if you contact the support team, they may be able to help give you guidance with them. If you do not use our support mechanisms, you can very quickly Google that information about how do you apply patches, and there's instructions on the internet that can help you get guidance on getting your systems patched and updated. That's something that's very good to do, in advance of the holiday rush. We're in the process right now of getting our systems patched with the latest updates that just came out last week. Because we want to make sure that we're not going to be surprised by any types of new viruses or new vulnerabilities that may come out during Mother's Day that could impact our holidays. So it's always a good time to go before the holiday season, make sure you're running the latest patch updates and that your systems are secure. Antivirus. So we've gone through, the process and patched our systems and making sure that, patching is up to date and those patches are effective and running. Antivirus is also a very key component for you to run on your computers to making sure that you're not having any types of malware that may infect your system. Antivirus works very well against known threats. There's also new types of malware out there called ransomware that, I'll talk about as well too. That is a very specific type of malware. Ransomware is started really becoming much more prevalent in the industry last year. Right before the Mother's Day holiday of last year, there was a very serious ransomware outbreak that hit primarily Europe. As well as it did impact quite a few different businesses in the United States as well. 3/4 of the British healthcare industry was actually shut down due to that ransomware. FedEx had very serious operational problems. All in told, the dollar losses from that ransomware infection were in the billions of dollars. And really what ransomware is it denies you access to your computer. When you become infected with it, it encrypts all of your files, makes your computer unusable, and it displays for you a message, generally with an 800 number to call, that they will sell you for generally several $100s to several $1,000s, a key to be able to unlock your system and get your files back. So hence the ransomware, your computer is being held ransom until you pay them those hundreds or thousands of dollars to get your system back. It's extremely successful. The organizations that have used ransomware, again, have become very financially enriched because of that, because people have been forced into paying that because they need to have access to their computer and those files. Running a good antivirus program, making sure that it keeps up to date, is very important to help you not become infected with that ransomware. Again, as ransomware and other viruses come out, there's thousands of them that are released every day. So it's very important that you also making sure that you have your antivirus software up to date and getting the latest definitions on a daily basis. At FTD, we have configured our systems that we go and get a new update every day. and you'd be able to configure that using your antivirus program as well. All major antivirus vendors release updates on a daily basis, so it will be very good for you to making sure that you're updating those as well. And I think we have a poll question on antivirus as well.
We do. All right. All my shop computers are running antivirus software that is updated regularly. Yes, no, or I'm not sure. Take a minute to answer. All right, let's see what we've got. 69% yes, 31% I'm not sure.
Those that aren't running it, I strongly recommend that you consider that as part of your software that you run in your shop. Again, it's very important for helping you maintain the security of your computer. Other viruses that we've seen very specifically target, banking information, credit card information, social security number information, and those viruses have the capabilities to specifically look for those files and send them out from your computer, to other locations where those hackers are able to retrieve it and then use that for their, for their own benefits. We've also seen other viruses that, look for passwords, actually log keystrokes as well. So having a good antivirus program will develop a lot of capabilities for you to keep your system secure. So strongly encourage that. The fifth thing that we'll talk about is really having a good backup of your files. As I mentioned before and talked a little bit about ransomware, one of the key defenses for being able to recover from a ransomware infection is really having a good backup of your data. So if you would become infected with ransomware, or if you had some other type of a disaster, just a normal technology failure, maybe your computer hard drive dies, maybe your computer becomes inoperable, having a good backup of your data, of your customer file, of your recent transactions, of projects that you have going on for customer orders, would be very important for you to be able to quickly get back in business, quickly make sure that you're going to meet those deadlines that you have, and be able to restore your shop to to working order. So it's very important to have a good backup of your information. So as you go through that, it's goes through the exercise of what should I back up, how often should I back it up, and so we've developed a backup strategy to kind of help give you some guidance in this area, and it's following that 3-2-1 process. 3 copies of your backed up data. So and store those in 3 different locations. So for example, 2 copies would be on different media. Generally on a flash drive. Maybe you're going to keep it on a cloud storage. So if you're using, other types of cloud storage like Box, Dropbox, even Google, Microsoft have free capabilities for you to store information or to store files in the cloud. That's a good place to keep copies of your data as well for you to be able to access, offline. And then also to 1 copy at home. So keeping a copy of it on that flash drive, in your house, maybe in another business location, keeping it with a trusted relative or friend, so that you're able to access it in the event that, one of your other copies becomes, unavailable or corrupted, or something happens to it. So having a very good comprehensive backup strategy is very important. It helps you restore your business in the event that you have a catastrophic event that may occur. So you'll be able to have those financial records, be able to have that order information, have that customer file, so that you're able to to restore your business in an appropriate way. All right, and I think we have a poll question on backup.
We do have one last poll question. All right, I'm confident that I have adequate backups of my data in the event of a computer failure. Yes, no, or I'm not sure. Take a minute to select your answer. All right, let's see what we got. 50% yes, 33 no, 17 are not sure.
That sounds very in line with a lot of the industry information that I've seen. Backup is usually one of the areas where businesses do not typically invest or put processes in place to be able to really have good backups of information. And it's really that insurance policy that you're going to have, your information available to you in the event that you do have a catastrophic loss. So it's good to think that through. Again, I believe that our support team can help you talk about some backup capabilities or solutions, or give you some further guidance on this. And lastly, I put up here our support number. The support there is a resource that you should make sure that you have access to and are using to help give you guidance. They can definitely give you, further information or help you through challenges if you're faced with any type of a security incident that we've talked about in these 5 different areas, with ransomware or phishing emails, malware. They're available and able to support you and help you through those challenges, and listed their hours of availability there. Also like to thank the support team that helped me through this presentation, giving me insight into some of the challenges that some of our florist customers have had, and helped me really craft this presentation. So thank you to our support team for their partnership and help with me putting this presentation together.
Mike, just for clarification, FTD support is available for any FTD member to call, not just people that are on Mercury point of sale, correct?
I believe so, yes.
Great. Just want to make sure everybody knows that. That's available to any FTD member.
And they're a very good resource, like I said, to help you through not only any of these security issues, but just general troubleshooting as well. We're getting ready for the upcoming busy Mother's Day holiday. So we're trying to get all of our systems updated and making sure that we have the capability to answer all of your calls in a timely manner too. So we appreciate your membership, and please reach out to us to let us know how we can serve you better. So with that, I'll be happy to turn it over to any Q&A that may have come in during the during the presentation.
We do have several questions. Let's just stay in backup because we're in there right now. That was our last topic. Stan wants to know if they use Mozzie, M-O-Z-Y backup. Are they safe? Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, Mozzie Back Up. Mozzie Back Up actually was a tool that originated out of IBM, I believe, quite a few years ago, and has now been spun off. Mozzie is a very good backup solution. I am familiar with it. It does back up data into Mozzie's cloud and is a very good tool.
All right. Paul wanted to know, how often should he back up his data?
That's a good question. Some of it is really going to depend upon potentially how frequently your information changes. Within IT, we generally do a nightly backup. So any changes that are made in our systems, we're capturing those on a nightly process. And then we're also taking a full backup on a weekly basis. So we are just making sure that we're capturing those on a nightly basis, any changes to data. So if a Excel spreadsheet changes or a Word document or some document gets altered, we're going to capture that on a nightly basis, but we're taking a full copy of everything on a weekly basis.
Okay, great. Talking about ransomware, Lance said, does ransomware typically also infect a secondary backup drive?
It can. Ransomware will very typically try to spread to any system that you are connected to. So in addition, so if, for example, you are on your computer and you click on a phishing link and you get directed to a website that infects you with ransomware, it will definitely infect that computer. But if you have a drive, say, attached in a USB port, it will also infect that drive.
All right. Carl wants to know, is there a specific type of antivirus software that he should be using?
It's difficult for me to give a very specific recommendation. There's many different antivirus programs out there, and there's now next generation antivirus programs. So I would generally suggest to stick with some of the major vendors in this area. Symantec, McAfee are very good. Kaspersky was a very common antivirus vendor. About a year or so ago, they ran into some problems with the United States government because they were a company that was out of Russia. So they have kind of lost some of their standing in the antivirus market just because of their country of origin. So I would generally say I would stay with one of the major players. You can generally get a good antivirus software online and updated for you as a subscription for a pretty reasonable fee.
Okay, great. Stan had a clarifying question on the Mozzie Back Up. He was asking the Mozzie Back Up that is part of Mercury point of sale.
Yes, the backup for your point of sale, I can double check with our Mercury team, but I believe that will update everything on that computer. But I will take a follow-up on that and get back to you specifically. But yes, I believe that covers that entire computer.
Okay, great. And Susan said FTD backing up her server. Is that enough, or should she have more ways of backup?
Backing up your server, there's a couple of different things that I would make sure that you're doing is backing up your server. First of all, backing up the operating system is very good because that will capture any specific configurations that you've made to it. So in the event of a hardware failure, you're able to apply that back up and bring your server up pretty quickly. Again, I would say make sure that you're also backing up the data that server is potentially processing or using. So make sure that you have that end-to-end capability of backing up the server, the operating system configurations, any of the applications, and then any of the data that those applications may be using.
All right, great. We've got another question. Is Mercury point of sale, back to tip number 1, we were talking about dedicated computers. Is Mercury point of sale dedicated?
The Mercury point of sale, from our deployment, yes, it can be deployed and used individually, but I do know that people have the capability to use that computer for other things, such as surfing the internet, using it for other business purposes like email and things like that. So I think our recommendation was try to keep that Mercury point of sale system or that Mercury software computer that's using your order processing, restricted to those functions.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mike. Again, if anybody else has any other questions, type it in that question box and we will be sure to ask it. I do have a question from Jillian. She said, what should she do if her computer gets infected by a virus or ransomware?
Yes, this is very common for computers to get infected. So one of the first things that you should really try to do is really isolate that computer. So for example, with one of the other questions that came in, will that virus potentially spread to, other storage media that may be plugged into a USB drive or across a network? Yes, it will. So trying to isolate that computer or take it off of your network or unplug other devices from it will help, control or contain that virus outbreak to just that computer. The next thing is, please contact the support line. They can help guide you through this. They can, have the technical capabilities to look at the computer, understand where that computer infection or virus may be residing. They have some tools that will be able to help identify if it is infected, what it's infected with, and help get it clean so that you can restore your operations appropriately. So they may ask you to bring the computer back online so that that way they're able to help troubleshoot it, but they will give you recommendations or directions to follow as part of that process. You know, also too, if it becomes a very serious infection and we're not able to correct it, you may have to reinstall that computer from scratch. And again, that's where a good backup of your information will aid you as part of that restoration process in getting back to business as usual.
All right, and we've got a little bit of clarification from Stan on the Mozzie backup. He said he's had the question about files other than FTD files being included with that backup. He said it's not all the files unless you contact support and have them include other files that you want backed up. So thanks, Stan, for clarifying that from your experience.
Thank you, Stan, yes.
All right, and it looks like we're out of questions for today. So I just want to thank everybody for attending today's webinar. If you missed a portion of this webinar or would like to view it again, a replay will be available on the FTD Mercury Network Florist YouTube channel later this week. And the webinar materials, a copy of this PowerPoint, is available at ftdi.com. We will be sending you a very brief survey to gather your feedback on today's webinar. So we'd ask you to please just take a quick minute to complete the survey and help us improve future webinars and other education programs for you. Our next FTD webinar is scheduled for Tuesday, May 22nd. Steve Daum, the Director of Superfloor Technologies at Floral Life, will share floral care and handling tips to maximize shelf life and ensure a great consumer experience. The registration is already available at ftdi.com, so be sure to register as soon as possible and reserve your spot. Again, thank you, Mike, for showing us how to prevent and swiftly respond to cybersecurity incidents. This concludes FTD's webinar, 5 Actions to Take to Improve Your Shop's Cybersecurity. Thank you, everyone.